Howdy, y'all. John Paul Clayton here from Houston, Texas. Hope you all are doing okay with COVID and everything in this wacky, crazy world that we now all live in. Hope you're staying safe and distance free from everybody. I'm going to cover fundamentalism in the modern United States in the early 1900s, primarily between the two world wars. But fundamentalism exists to this very day, with the fact that you'll see a war on Christmas with Xmas and stuff. But winding back to where it really began on a massive scale is with the rise of the modern cities and more people moving to the cities and away from rural living, farming in the United States, and resulted in more people away from their roots, away from traditional things. And science spread into more people's lives in an everyday way that they saw. So, what you have is a lot of changes happen in society. Christianity gets attacked, and some want to revise it into fitting more of the culture, to be more politically correct. But there's a pushback, as there should be in anything you're going to change that's biblically based. You should always go back to the Bible. Now, I will say that all fundamentalists didn't always correctly interpret things, but their intentions were good. A lot of their issues that they had were with changing fundamentally the teachings to make it more warm and fuzzy to fit the modern day at the time. And with the rise of the Roaring Twenties, where crime was seen very differently, with alcohol was seen in a different level, and they were some of the champions of prohibition that would later fail a couple decades later. But anyway, they pushed back mainly against Darwinism that was being shoved down in the public school system and the education system in the United States. And this became a problem for them because they fundamentally disagreed with it, and they did not want something incorrect to their beliefs taught to their kids without an option or balance. Fundamentalism really was the attack against a balanced system throughout its time. It would get portrayed at different points by the media to spin it a different way, usually in a negative light, to link it with groups that didn't actually fit with, but would get linked with hardline racial-based groups, or groups that were not based in the best light or correctly. But fundamentalism would continue on to this day in different forms. But one of its biggest pushes was to bring back and conserve the way of teaching the Bible to children and dealing with education. This would not always succeed, and to this day, they still struggle because evolution is deemed not a religion by the public school system, but God creating the earth and the Garden of Eden is considered. And that's fundamentally one of the major problems they've always had. And they were spun negatively in the media throughout their time, or made as a joke. Anyway, they struggled to fight the pushback of removing of Christianity, which you can kind of go back in history and see what happened after the French Revolution was the casting off of anything that was revolved around the king or the church. And they came up with a whole new week in that time, trying to just get away from God. So fundamentalists were rooted in the idea of getting correct with God. Now, they made mistakes, as every human does, but they had the right idea. And they wanted to put God at the center of particularly education. This would not work, and this would fundamentally fall apart at different points and rise back up, but it would be a struggle. But thank you guys. Stay safe out there. Be well.